are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to today's webinar, PowerApps Innovations Made Easier. My name is Danny Smith, and I'm the Manager of Events and Marketing at Microexcel, and I'll be moderating the webinar today. During today's presentation, we will discuss the most recent update released by PowerApps, Forms panel in modern lists and custom forms with PowerApps, as well as provide an overall demo of the key features of PowerApps. Our presenter for today is Mr. Mahesh Kamanaru. With over 12 years of experience in design, development, and maintenance of end-tier applications in Microsoft technologies, Mahesh is considered a versatile Office 365 SharePoint architect. Just a few laundry items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be sent out in a few days. Also, we will have a Q&A portion at the end, so please type any questions you may have in the questions box, and we will get to those in the order they are received. If you have any questions after the webinar, please feel free to contact us at info@microexcel.com. At the conclusion of today's webinar, there will be a brief survey. Please do take a few moments and share your thoughts with us. So without further ado, I'd like to present our speaker for today, Mr. Mahesh Kamanaru.
Thank you, Danny. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. In today's session, we're going to cover, PowerApps, Microsoft PowerApps. We're going to start with what PowerApps is, what are its benefits, and why and when to use PowerApps. To put it bluntly, PowerApps is a low-code solution that's going to enable your power users to make use of your organizational data and build applications for mobile devices. For users who are familiar with Office 365 environment, you might have been already playing with PowerApps. You might be familiar with creating a basic app using one of the PowerApps connectors. Okay. In addition to just creating an app for your mobile users, PowerApps also announced a new feature in October during Microsoft Ignite. That new feature is now available through the October 2017 release. With this new feature, you can now start customizing SharePoint forms. So any of your SharePoint online list or libraries, where you're used to those out-of-box forms, in the past, when you have a scope of rebranding them or customizing them, your options used to be either customizing the info path form or going to a custom solution or using a third-party product. Using PowerApps, now you can customize your SharePoint forms at a very rapid pace. Okay. The good thing about PowerApps is that PowerApps comes out of box with a lot of connectors. Okay, the connectors helps you to connect to data sources such as your Office 365, SharePoint Online, Twitter, Box, even Salesforce. So there are roughly 100 to 150 connectors already available for you out of box. Okay. Okay. So, but why and when to use the PowerApps, right? Let's discuss about why. Using PowerApps is simple and fast. Okay, you don't need any tons of experience doing custom development anymore. If you're a power user who's familiar with just any studios with the drag and drop functionalities and the ability to run or execute Excel calculations, you can start using PowerApps. Okay, to create a new app using the PowerApps Studio hardly takes few minutes and few clicks. So it's that simple and that fast. Okay. At the same time, it's not just limited to the power users, right? The PowerApps is also robust and scalable for enterprise developers. If you are an enterprise IT team with all the skill set with .NET, C#, TypeScripting, or REST APIs and all that, you can create custom connectors which are relevant to your business. Or if you're a partner, you can come up with a configurable custom connectors that you can publish into the gallery. Okay, so this combination of using PowerApps for various roles, whether you are a power user or you are an enterprise developer, makes PowerApps so powerful. The other advantage of PowerApps, PowerApps comes from the family of Microsoft Power Platform, right, which includes Microsoft Flow, Power BI. So PowerApps has a straightforward integration with Microsoft Flow. You can automate your business process by using PowerApps and combination of flow. So you can customize your SharePoint list form using PowerApps and then initiate any of those business process by using the Microsoft Flow. In today's demo, we're going to cover a couple of those scenarios. And another major advantage of PowerApps is in the modern look and mobile friendliness. Okay, the motto of Office 365 has always been mobile first, right? PowerApps, by default, most of the layouts are mobile friendly. The responsive UI, the basic app that you can create is meant for mobile users. The forms that you're going to customize, the layers that are provided to you are by default responsive UI. And they also follow the consistency in terms of the modern look that has been published across all the Office 365 applications. So on the next slide, we're going to cover how do I get started with PowerApps. Okay, there are two important factors. One is the tool that you're going to use to design and develop the PowerApps. Next is the license. Okay, coming to the tool, there are two options. One is PowerApps Studio for Web, whereas the other one is the PowerApps Studio for Windows. Straightforward to use both the tools. The way you reach out to PowerApps Studio for Web is from your portal.office.com. For users who are familiar with interacting with Office 365 in the browser, you're going to have an app launcher on the left top corner. Click on the app launcher, click on the PowerApps icon. That's going to take you to the PowerApps Studio for Web. Whereas the PowerApps Studio for Windows, that comes from your Microsoft Store. If you are a Windows 8 user or a Windows 10 desktop user, go to your Microsoft Store and download the PowerApps Studio. Not much of a difference, but depends on how your preference and the flow of your application development. You might choose one over the other. In my demos, I'm going to stick to PowerApps Studio for Web. As I get into my demo, I'll also explain why I stick to that. The next one is license. This is a big question. Many clients that in the past, whenever we discuss this, they always have these questions on what kind of a license at the minimum they would require to start using PowerApps. If your organization is already in Office 365, either with the Enterprise E3, E5 license, you already have access to PowerApps. Okay, but this is a minimum standard license that you have, which enables you to create PowerApps and use certain connectors. In addition to this, there are certain additional licenses called PowerApps Plan 1 and Plan 2. Depending on your requirement, depending on your need, you would need to choose either of these plans. So there's a link to the PowerApps pricing page here in this slide, which also explains and differentiate the features available for each of the plan. So I would recommend to go through that at your own leisure. In addition, in the PowerApps Plan 2, there is a trial license. The trial license is for 90 days. For those who wants to first evaluate what kind of additional features you're going to get with this plan, you can always use that sign up for those 90 days Plan 2 trial. Okay. Again, how do you control this license? It's pretty much the same way that you would have controlled your license subscriptions from your Office 365 admin portal. With a proper role on the Office 365, you can go and assign this license to users, or you can also do it through automated scripts and security groups. Before we jump on to the demos, I would like to highlight, and define what a connector is in PowerApps. Okay. The PowerApps is basically presenting your data, right, through the app, or you're customizing your SharePoint list forms. Okay. To present the data, data has to come from a data source. These data sources could be a variety of, applications or line of business. It could be SharePoint, Dynamics 365, OneDrive for Business, or it could be even an external third-party component such as Salesforce or Box.com, right? You need a data connection that can establish a secure connection to this data source and have the ability to present this data through the data connection onto your framework. These connectors are basically wrappers that are built and available out of box for you when you use PowerApps. So there are close to 100 plus Power App connectors which are readily available for you to go and talk to the data source and get that data into your apps or into your UI. Okay, these are few examples that I am showing on the slide. As we get into the Power Apps Studio, I'll show you some of the connectors available there. There are a couple of things, important things to note. There are types of connectors. There are standard connectors. There are premium connectors. Okay, standard connectors are included within your license that comes with your Office 365 E3 or E5. Whereas premium connectors would require either a plan 1 or plan 2. When you click a connector, it's going to show some details about the connector, information about the connector, and it will also tell you, what kind of a plan would you require. Here in this slide, as you can see, I took a snapshot of the connectors. Some of the connectors are marked with a premium tag. Where you see a premium tag, it's obvious that you would require a plan 1 or plan 2. There are few apps few connectors which are standard, like the SharePoint, Dynamics 365, OneDrive for Business, which could be used directly with your enterprise license. Okay. So today's focus will be covering primarily the customization of SharePoint list forms using Power Apps. Again, it's a SharePoint online list forms using Power Apps. This feature was made available in October 2017 release. Okay, we're going to customize the default forms. We're going to customize and see what are the layouts available to either view the data of a list form from a list, or the ability to edit the data coming from a list. Okay, these forms are directly embedded into the SharePoint list. Okay, so providing those native and seamless experience for users. And we're going to briefly touch base on creating an app using SharePoint list connector too. I will show you how fast and how easy it is to create a Power App using a SharePoint list connector. So we're going to cover these two scenarios, and primary focus would be on customizing the list forms. Many of you might be aware or might be using info platforms, right, to customize your SharePoint list forms. Could be to do some conditional formatting, could be to hide some fields which are not relevant to the specific role who is editing the form. So most of the scenarios where organizations used to use info platforms to address, we're gonna show how Power Apps can do that. So again, Power Apps and info platforms are not apples to apple comparison, but a combination of Power Apps, custom connectors, and Microsoft Flow can potentially fulfill all those requirements where IT normally tend to use info platform to fulfill those requirements. Okay, without further delay, I'm going to jump onto the demo. Let me pull up my browsers here. Okay, so what you're seeing now is a sample list, a test list that I created for this demo. The scenario here is that this test list is being used by my PMO group and my leadership. We are creating all the projects that we are handling here, at Microexcel into the context of projects list. It has a list of projects, the accounts that each project is related to, and most importantly, the start date, the end date, the estimated hours for each project, the budget that was allocated for each project, and the actuals against the estimates. And then I have some calculated fields such as hours available and budget remaining. These are calculated columns based on the assigned project budget and an actual budget spent, and similarly with hours. Okay, so the requirement for me is to customize this list form using Power Apps. Okay, before I go ahead and start customizing the app, I'm going to quickly show you how to launch Power Apps Studio for Web. You're going to use the app launcher from the left top corner here. Okay, go to all apps, click on Power Apps. Okay, so that's the home page of your Power Apps Studio. Normally it takes you directly to gallery. If there is a sample app, if there are any apps that your company has, your team has been working on and has been shared with you, you can see them here. In addition, you can see some basic templates available in the gallery. As you can see, there are a lot of templates that are available out of box that you can directly start using them. For today's demo, however, I'm going to start from my list. My SharePoint online list is my data source. I'm going to close this. In my SharePoint list, I'm going to use the Power Apps connector here directly. And I'm going to click Customize Forms from here. The reason I'm doing it from here is that Power Apps is intelligent enough to understand, okay, I'm trying to customize this list. So it knows the data source and it directly establishes that connection, saving a lot of time for me. And it also uses a default layout and populate this data using the default template. So I'm going to check this and you can see the magic of the Power Apps Studio here. Just few seconds, it by default builds up a form using all the default layouts available in the studio. And then I can take that template and customize it to my needs. As you can see in the background, it already started filling up all the data controls, build up a basic list form for me. There we go. So less than a minute, there is a custom form available for me to play with. Okay, so I'm going to keep it simple. Let me hide few cards that I don't need. On a Power App form, you're going to call this as cards, basically a section that controls the label and the respective data control. I don't want to see the practice. That's obvious to my team members here. Okay, project manager, estimated date, I need those. Okay, I don't want to see a project site. I can handle this through my flow. And similarly, project sites, I'm gonna hide this. I don't need the compliance or site ID. You can see, it's so easy to hide and play with the columns. Okay, with the info path form or with your customizations, you should going through a lot of conditional validation. But here there are controls available to quickly modify this. Also, I want to change the look and feel of this form. I want to make it much more presentable. I'm not a big fan of the scroll bars. So I'm going to select the form here, and I'm going to click on the data on the right side. So these are my control panel. Click on data, it shows me all the properties available for my form. Some of the default layouts available are whether I can choose a vertical or a horizontal. I'm going to toggle to horizontal and show you how it looks. No, I just want to go back to vertical. That's a much better presentation for me. But instead of one column, I'm going to choose 2 columns. Okay, this makes a little bit more presentable. I don't want this column too. I can delete it or I can hide it. Okay, I'm going to do a quick publish from here, and then we'll come back and do some conditional formattings. Okay, once you're satisfied with your customizing the form, publishing is pretty straightforward. You're going to just click on back to SharePoint. It's going to ask, do you want to save and publish? Once my changes are saved and published, it's going to redirect me back to that list. Okay. So when I click this item, you can see it's picking up my custom Power Apps form. First time it takes a few seconds to load, and then it should be fast. You can see my redesign layout where I choose a 2-column layout and I delete some unwanted fields. I can directly do an edit from here. Okay. So I can say this progress could be on hold. DSA. And if I want to create a new item, the new item also takes up the same form. Again, we choose an example where a single design has been used both for a new form, edit form, and display form. You can have multiple forms too. Okay, do a cancel. I'm going to go back and customize this further. Customize forms. Okay. So let's do some conditional formatting. That's all about customization, right? It's not just about you and I. Ability, the scope of doing adding business rules into the forms. That's what makes this powerful and more competitive, or replacing your info platform customizations. I'm going to do some basic customizations here. Say, for example, if I want to highlight these two fields, depending on whether the available hours are less than 0. For example, if my spent hours are more than my estimated hours, I want to highlight that field so that my team or my leadership can quickly grab if I can quickly grab their attention to this data. Okay, this is the card that's presenting the data. There's a label, that's a value. So I want to highlight this value, maybe do a color coding to red color. So I'm going to select this data. I'm going to pick the function which I want to play with. That's the color. By default, it's assigned to a color. I'm going to change this to a conditional validation. So I'm going to use a if statement. And this if statement syntax is pretty much same as your Excel formulas. So I'm going to say if my actual hours spent, as I type in, it also picks up all those data fields greater than equal to my estimated hours. I want to highlight the text in red. If not, keep it as a black. Yep. So you can say it's as easy to do any of those validations. Again, it's not limited to just a simple validation like this. Start slow. Start learning all the available formulas for you. You can do a number of customizations. If my actual budget spent greater than my project budget, I'll let this is in red. Okay. And as I was explaining, it's not just about minimal UI validations, right? You can also go ahead and integrate with Microsoft Flow. I'm not going to go detail into the Microsoft Flow here, but I'll show you the scope to which you can do that. Say, for example, I have a button. I want to automate this process. That I know, my hours are exceeding my estimated hours, or my budget is is red. Maybe I can use the button to initiate a separate business process, like sending a notification to my client engagement manager saying that we need to have some discussions, or there is a scope creep, or I need to initiate a CSR. Could be any of those business processes. If I want to automate that, again, this is one example. I might have a button here, and I can initiate an action, which is pretty much writing a Microsoft Flow for that. Okay. So I drag the button. I'm going to my actions and selecting flows. I can do create new flow. It takes me to the Microsoft Flow Studio. So people who are familiar with already using flows, you would know how to do these flows. If not, we already covered a webinar. You can find that in the microexcel.com website from on-demand webinars. You can go create a lot of steps, or do conditional steps before you do an action. I'm not getting much here in the interest of the time. Just close here. I'm going to delete this button for time. Delete. Let's go and publish the conditional validations we put for these two data fields. Let's go back and publish it. Save and publish. Okay, so let me pick up a project. start where we are running. Okay, I think the second one here has hours in where the actual hours are, exceeded our initial hours. So let me go and open that project. You can see that validation we are doing. It's highlighted to red. Okay. So with the combination of Power Apps and Microsoft Flow, you can pretty much automate any of your business process. It requires a bit of learning or understanding the capabilities of Power Apps Studio, but the scope or the scope of customizations is pretty much infinite with the various combinations. Okay, I think we're running short on time. Let me quickly jump and show you how to create a basic app. So I'm going to create an app. When I create an app, it's going to use the same SharePoint list as my source. I'm going to use the SharePoint list connector. I'm going to call this as sample demo for PMO. As you can see, it's hardly going to take a minute for me to create a mobile-friendly app. So right now, in our example, in this demo, we are pretty much using a basic SharePoint list as a data source. App is ready. I can quickly modify the data fields I want to show. I'm not don't want to show this dollar figures in my app. So I'm going to change and play around with this. I'm going to show my title here. As I change that, as you can see, it reflects across all my, and I don't want the hours here. I want to show the account this project belongs to. Okay. Okay. The account is a drop-down field in my list. That's why it's not letting me directly choose the account. I need to go drill down to its properties. So it's account.value. That's when it's going to fetch the actual value. And you can see my app is reflected with the data. I can go select my screen here. I can play around with my layouts. Click on data. I don't want 3 columns here. You can see some default layouts available here. I'll just stick to title and subtitle here. Yep, that's all I need. I can also do a quick preview with the preview button here. Click here. See, a simple app created out of a list with all the basic functionality. So it has a nice dashboard with the SharePoint list data. I can go to a detailed view of a specific item, and I can even edit that item. Okay. So if I want to change to Fabricom, save. It's as quick as that. So creating a Power App is pretty straightforward. And then it's up to your imagination and creativity how you want to customize this in terms of UI or in terms of combining data from multiple data sources. If it's an enterprise developer, you can come up with a custom connectors that can handle the scope of merging data from different data sources. There's something called Common Data Source Platform, which you can make use of. Okay, and that concludes our demo for this quick webinar today. I'm going to close this. Okay, and let me jump back to my presentation. Okay, what to expect from Power Apps in the near future? So the Power Apps roadmap was was discussed in detail during the Microsoft Ignite, and there are various blogs and announcements coming from Microsoft. These are the key features that that IT can look forward to. There will be a Power Apps web part available for your SharePoint Online. The Power Apps web part will let you host any of the Power App forms or the actual app into your SharePoint Online page, which would be a cool feature. In addition to that, there is a server-side business logic integration using the Common Data Service that will be available pretty soon. When I say pretty soon, it could be by end of this year or the early first quarter of next year. and also the embed Power Apps in Power BI reports. If I'm not wrong, the third one is already available for preview. There is a embed Power Apps in Power BI. So these are the key features that you can expect of being released from Microsoft pretty soon. Okay, that brings to our 30 minutes session. We are now open to take any Q&A.
Thank you, Mahesh. It does look like we have had a question come through during your presentation. And that first question is, how does Power Apps compare to leading third-party products like Nintex or K2?
Good question. And again, each one has their own benefits, right? If you are talking about creating an app, of course, Nintex or K2 can't compete on that. You are able to create a mobile-friendly app with just few clicks. Power Apps definitely has a better hand on that, upper hand on this. But if you're talking about just the SharePoint customizations, Nintex is still a go-to third-party provider, especially in the on-prem SharePoint. The Power Apps, the feature in Power Apps to customize forms is still limited to SharePoint Online. And again, Nintex customizations are different from Power App customizations. Nintex customizations are directly to the SharePoint list level, whereas the Power Apps list form customizations is still from a user-centric, whereas the Nintex forms are directly with the SharePoint list. Once you customize the form is available in SharePoint list. And Nintex customizations also provide you with a bit of robust out-of-box, capabilities, and also the ability to do quick coding with JavaScript, jQuery, and REST APIs. Okay, so there's still a lot of advantage in using Nintex. Power Apps is evolving on a total different front. It's mobile friendly, and the ability to go to third-party data sources beyond SharePoint. That's where Power Apps differentiate away from Nintex or K2.
Thank you, Mahesh. The next question we've had come through is, I'm curious what will happen if you add columns or make changes to the list. Will Power Apps automatically update the form with the new information, or will you have to edit and publish the forms or apps to have those changes reflected?
Good question. So depending on the type of columns, right? When a form is customized, it's actually customized. Whenever you add a new column, this column will be refreshed as a data element. But to change the UI, you would need to go there and update the form. So should be careful on when you are adding any mandatory or required columns.
Thank you. The next question is, can Power Apps connect to my on-premise SQL databases?
Short answer is yes. I don't know if I covered that during the connectors. There's something called gateways. So you'd require to install a on-premises gateway, and then use the on-premises gateway, which in turn use Azure Service Bus to facilitate that data connection to your on-premises resource. That could be your on-prem SharePoint or a on-prem SQL server. Totally possible. Yes.
Okay, the next question is co-authoring supported in Power Apps?
No. So co-authoring is not supported in Power Apps or in the customizing in the list forms customized by Power Apps. User has to exit from the form before someone else can come and edit it. Co-authoring is not supported.
Thank you. The next question is, where are published Power Forms stored? How do we deploy the forms from one environment, for example, development, to another environment, production?
So the forms are directly embedded to your list, right? So you can't republish them to other SharePoint environments unless you start it as a app, or as an app you deploy to the gallery. But the form is directly linked to your SharePoint list. Okay, so if you've seen my demo, right? In the demo, the way I customize is directly from the list. So I'm using my list as my source, and the form is directly published back into the list.
Okay, thank you. The next question is Is this a readily available feature in Office 365 E3 or E5 licenses? If yes, does it require any kind of customizations or development to make use of all of the end users, or no need?
So it's readily available if you have a E3 or E5 license. Your admin has to make sure that the PowerApps license has been enabled. It's not like you can within the E3 you can remove subscriptions for a few components. So you need to do a quick validation if PowerApps is being enabled. No customization required, no development required. You can start with a basic PowerApps.
Okay, the next question is, if I'm using Office 365 E1 licenses, they'll want to avail this feature, is it possible to get these Power Apps by paying additional money for Microsoft, or to Microsoft, sorry?
Yes, so you can get PowerApps Plan 1 or Plan 2, and you can make use of PowerApps. So this Plan 1 and Plan 2 are standalone license. So for people who are missing out through their E3 and E5, can definitely buy PowerApps Plan 1 and Plan 2. Any other questions?
Yeah, we just had one more come through. It looks like Power Apps forms are responsive by nature.
Yes, they are responsive by nature. In my demo, the layout that we choose, if you look at it, it was mostly like a mobile portrait look. We could have gone from a portrait to landscape mode and all that, but by default, they are responsive UI. Yes.
Thank you, Mahesh. As there are no more questions, this does conclude today's webinar. A recording of this will be sent to all participants. You will also each be receiving our survey. Please take a few moments and provide your feedback on today's webinar. In the meantime, if you have any more questions, please email info@microexcel.com. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.